Okay, in this video what we're going to do is design and implement the little application that we described at the end of the last video regarding the while loop. And to refresh your memory, the idea is we're going to have a square display window, and then wherever our mouse pointer is, we're going to start drawing circles. And the circles are going to run diagonally, clear up until they reach the top or the right-hand side of the screen. And so that trail of circles will follow the mouse pointer. And the reason we're using the while loop is because we don't know where the while loop is going to be, and so the number of circles to draw until we reach the end, the right side or the top, will vary depending on where the mouse pointer is. Okay? So, easy enough. All right, real quickly, let's refresh ourselves on our coordinate system and then talk about how we're going to design this particular application. Remember that our x coordinates get bigger as we go to the right, and our y coordinates get bigger as we go down. So if I imagine this center circle right there, to get to the next point for the next circle, I'm going to have to add to the x variable, or x dimension, and subtract from the y dimension. Okay? So we're going to use a while loop that will repeatedly add 30 pixels to x, subtract 30 pixels from y, draw the next circle until we reach either the top or the right side. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and sketch a little pseudocode for our draw method here. Okay, so in our draw method, we'll erase our background first, and the image that was on the slide set there showed a black background, and that's because things are moving, so since it's animated we'll have to erase between each frame. Then we're going to record where our current mouse position is. So I'll remember the x coordinate of the mouse and the y coordinate of the mouse when the draw method started. Now we're going to start drawing our circles, and that will be in a while loop. Okay? So we're going to keep going as long as the x variable hasn't reached the edge yet. So while x, let's say, is less than or equal to the width of the screen, and we want to keep going until the y value gets to the top. So y greater than or equal to 0. So if either one of those becomes false, so the x variable moves beyond the right-hand side of the screen, or the y variable moves beyond the top of the screen, that will cause that whole condition to be false, and then we'll skip the loop, and that'll be it for draw. So then we're going to do our ellipse. Okay, so we'll draw it at the x, y coordinates, and it's, I believe, a 10 by 10 circle, is what we said. And then from there, we have to update the values of our x and y coordinates. So we said we're going to add to x to make it go to the right, subtract from y to make it go up. And there we go. That should do it. Now this will create a trail of circles running diagonally up to the right when we do our draw method. Okay? There are a few other things in terms of setting fill colors, establishing the size of the screen, obviously, turning on smoothing. All that will happen in the setup method. But this is draw. Okay? This will work. So we're going to take that design and we're going to go ahead and try to implement it. So that's next. Let's go to the computer. Okay, now we're back at the computer here. We'll go ahead and implement our design. We'll just call this
mouse trail. And we'll need two methods here. We're going to need our setup method, which is where we'll establish the screen size, set our colors, and so on. And then we're going to need our draw method, which is where we actually draw the mouse trails. Okay? Setup-wise, not too much to do here. We'll just create a square window. We're going to set the fill color of our circles to red. And if this were a larger example, we would go to the trouble of creating constants for colors and constants for sizes and the difference between the circles and so on. But really, we're just trying to illustrate the workings of the while loop, so we won't go to all that bother. But we will turn on our smoothing so the circles look nice. And that should do it for our setup method. Now in draw, following the algorithm that we wrote, we're going to erase our background first with a background call, and we'll just set it to black. Then I'm going to remember the location of the mouse pointer with two variables, x and y, that are floats, and now I'll have my while loop. So I'm going to keep going as long as my x value hasn't reached the right side and my y value hasn't reached the top. And again, if either one of those conditions becomes false, then the while loop will end and the program will stop drawing circles. Okay, inside then we're going to go ahead and draw our circle with an ellipse method call at the current coordinates, and we'll make it a 10 by 10 circle. And again, in a more elaborate example, more well-designed example, we'd have constants there, but for this we're just illustrating while. And then all that's left is to actually update the values of x and y. So we're going to step x 30 pixels to the right and y 30 pixels up. And there we go. That's the implementation of our draw algorithm that we just designed. So if I save my program and run it, here we go. Now I've got a series of circles that follow my mouse pointer, and the circles go clear up to the top of the screen diagonally. So that's sort of the maximum number that I can have, and that would be the smallest number that I could have, which would be 1. So that's why a while loop works well here, because I don't know in advance how many circles to draw. It depends on where my mouse pointer is. All right, so there we go. Mouse pointer moving, trail following it, using a while loop. All right, in our next video, we're going to go ahead and move on and examine the other pretest loop in processing, which is called the for loop. So we'll see you then.